Hello and welcome to the British Dapper, and today we're talking about gentlemen's casual spring looks. So today is the final video in a series of 3 videos over ensembles for the springtime, and looking at specifically in this final video the overarching outfits that I would consider wearing throughout the spring period, from the early spring where it's still almost winter conditions all the way through to almost summer conditions at the end of this spring period. And first of all, what I would say is that we are looking at casual ensembles, not suits and formal attire. So when it comes to that casual look, then really we are looking for something that is going to be complementary to the season and also the weather conditions that are prevailing at the time. One of the first things I would suggest is that even in the early spring period, it's still very crisp and cold and potentially wet, so it doesn't rule out the use of wax jackets or, more importantly, thicker wool coats going into the spring period. But early spring is still a good opportunity to wear those tweed jackets still, and jumpers, and still in a very casual setting. We can wear those darker coloured shoes as well, and it's a really good look for the early part of the spring period. But as the weather starts to warm up a little bit and the nights draw out a little bit, and not only that, the sun comes out earlier in the mornings, then we are starting to look at introducing some lighter tones in our overall ensembles. And in the first video I did, we were talking about that Italian vibe coming through and those light tones coming through in the overall looks. So for example, taupes, mild light greys, some other tobacco colours coming through as well. So those sort of colours are typical that you'll see in the spring period. And to be fair, they're still a good look even in the cooler period. So those tweed jackets, those camel colours coming through, and the trousers as well, all fits together with a nice ensemble with some lighter coloured mid-tan shoes, for example. Another good look coming through there. But also the use of derby shoes and a nice little touch to things as well. And still quite a casual look, which you could wear with a tie or without a tie, and it's still very effective. But as the season unrolls and it gets a little bit warmer, then maybe the thickness of the jackets needs to be a little bit thinner to accommodate those warmer periods of the season. So for example, we might end up wearing a Harrington jacket as a casual jacket over a pair of jeans or a t-shirt, for example a polo shirt, or a light relaxed dress shirt, for example, either an Oxford button down or something along those lines. And when it comes to those jackets, then we're starting to roll out some lighter colours and some thinner materials. So maybe those cotton jackets come out, that or cotton linen jackets, and similar to this type of material where we're getting thinner material coming through, a little bit more breathable, a little bit lighter, a bit of texture maybe or colour to it, and really does bring in that spring-like colours. And again, with those taupe colours that we're talking about, those lighter colours, then the world's your oyster with the shirt, ties, cravats, or colour of the trousers you're going to employ with that. But again, I would suggest we're looking at increasingly lighter colours as we go through the spring period. So as the weather warms up, then we're looking for more vibrant, lighter material, and also the colour goes up as well, rather than those darker tones which we would use traditionally more in the earlier part of spring rather than the latter part. But jeans are an example, whereas in the winter periods you might wear some really dark blue denim jeans. As the weather warms up, then we're looking at lighter tones on those jeans, so they're not quite as dark, they're lighter in tone and become much more summer orientated, to the extent where you may even be wearing off-coloured white jeans or even white jeans in the very end of spring going into the summer period. But for example, if we're going to employ a light linen or linen cotton based jacket, there are a number of ties that we would be able to employ with that more spring summer vibe, and it's a great way of introducing colour when we've got all the other colours quite neutral and quite calm colours. So the tie is where we might be able to employ a significant amount of colour and get a really good result in the overall image. So for example, we might be able to use those tangerine colours, and here's a striped tie with those tangerine colours with a slight blue and cream stripe going through it. We could use something really vivid, and this is very much an apple, almost day glow green tie. It's a check tie with some reds going through there as well as some creams, but it really is quite an acidic sort of colour, quite typical of the spring period where we're starting to introduce those spring stroke summer colours, and a real pop of interest really in the overall look. Consequently, we could even use some muted colours as well, where we've got that cream background to the tie and maybe a soft pattern to that with some browns or oranges in that pattern. So there's something there for the summer period. Of course, you don't have to wear a tie. We are talking about a casual look, and we could even, instead of wearing a dress shirt, we could introduce something like, for example, a polo shirt, and that always goes well in the late spring, early summer period. Equally, in the earlier part of the season, you may want to employ, for example, a roll neck sweater, and this gives you that little bit more warmth and a little bit more pop of interest and colour to your overall ensemble. But as the season rolls out and we start to get almost into summer conditions, you could employ the different types of coloured shirts we could employ for a really good look. So you could use some of those powder blues, maybe even a high contrast blue with part of your ensemble. You could also wear those pinks, whether light or really deep pinks. They go particularly well in the latter part of the season and carry you through into the summer period as well. So don't be afraid to try these things and experiment a little bit. But just remember, with the shoes, we are changing those as the season rolls out as well, from those darker brown colours into something that's a little bit more along the lines of a mid-tan to a light tan towards the end of the spring period, which will carry you through into the summer period. So anyway, just a few ideas there for you. So we also have a Patreon page, and I'll put the link below, so if you'd like to check it out you can do so. But you can become a member for as little as the equivalent of a cup of coffee. And depending on your level of access, depends on how much engagement you'll have with us. But additionally, we provide monthly videos, unique footage for the Patreon group, along with monthly one-to-one sessions as well, depending on the level of access you have. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give us a thumbs up. If you'd like to subscribe, then please feel free to do so. We have a Buy Me a Coffee page, so if you'd like to make a contribution to the channel, then please feel free to do so. We also love constructive comments, so if you'd like to make some, jot them down below. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. And if you've got a question you'd like to pose to us or you'd like an answer to, then why not jot it down? We'll try and answer your question for you. We also like ideas for future videos, so if you want to make a contribution and make a suggestion about future content, then please again jot it in the notes below and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. The next video could be something that you've recommended or suggested. So until next time, take care.